There were two times in my life I almost walked away from the woman I loved for 52 years. Yet, here I am, 93, sitting beside her, watching her hands fold neatly over her lap, wondering how we survived it all. My name is Walter James. I've lived nearly a century, but nothing has tested me more than the love of Eleanor Collins. Eleanor, now 86, has been my anchor through storms I thought I couldn't weather. She's not perfect, no one is, but there's a quiet strength in her presence that has shaped my life in ways I'm only now able to understand. The truth is, our marriage wasn't always easy. There were battles fought silently, regrets that weighed heavy, and moments when I felt so lost that walking away seemed like the only option. Yet somehow we stayed. Somehow love held. I grew up in a small Midwestern town, the kind of place where everyone knows your name and your mistakes before you even make them. My father ran a modest workshop my mother kept the house with quiet patience. I was a shy boy, full of dreams I didn't know how to voice. I wanted adventure, to see more than the dusty streets I'd grown up on. But I carried an insecurity that made me hesitant, cautious, afraid to risk my heart. Eleanor grew up just a few towns over, in a house filled with laughter and music. She had a spark, a brightness in her eyes that seemed to notice everything and everyone. She could command a room without raising her voice, and yet she had a softness in her presence that made people lean in, wanting her attention, her approval, her smile. I first met her at a church fundraiser. I remember the way she laughed at a joke I barely made, the tilt of her head when she asked me a question that seemed small, but made me feel like she was seeing right through me. I didn't know it then, but this woman would become the most important part of my life, the anchor I didn't realize I needed. That day, I felt a pull I couldn't explain. A quiet certainty that life would never be the same. Our early years of marriage were messy. Love felt big and bright at first, but reality came fast. Bills piled up, work was exhausting, tempers flared over the smallest things, leaving socks on the floor, forgetting a birthday, holding in frustrations until they spilled over like rain on a fragile roof. There was a night, one I'll never forget, when I sat in the car outside our apartment, the engine running, thinking about leaving. I was frustrated, tired, ashamed of myself. The world felt too heavy, and I thought life might be easier if I just walked away. But then I saw her through the window, sitting at the kitchen table, writing something in her notebook. She didn't see me, and yet I felt her presence pierce through my doubts. I realized then that leaving wouldn't solve anything. It would just leave a hole where love had once lived. Eleanor didn't plead. She didn't beg. She simply showed up again and again, with quiet patience, with the warmth in her voice that reminded me why I had chosen her in the first place. And I came back, not out of obligation, but out of recognition that love is something you fight for, not something you walk away from. We built a life together, 2 kids, a home that smelled of Sunday dinners, laughter bouncing off the walls even when we were exhausted. There were days when I wanted to scream, days when I wanted to run, And yet there were also countless moments of joy. A joke whispered across the dinner table, a child's small triumph, the way Eleanor would hum softly while folding laundry. Raising children was a test of patience and love. My temper was quick. Hers was slow to anger but steadfast in wisdom. Over time, I grew to appreciate her more than I ever thought possible. Every wrinkle on her face tells a story of our battles, our laughter, our stubbornness, and somehow our love survived them all. I remember one Christmas morning when we had barely enough to buy a single gift. Our children's eyes lit up like the tree itself, and I looked at Eleanor, and something in me shifted. Life was not about wealth or perfection. It was about showing up. It was about love, day in and day out, even when it hurt, even when it was hard. The second time I almost left her. It wasn't anger or exhaustion. It was fear. Fear that we were too different, that pride and resentment had taken root too deeply. I felt trapped between regret and stubbornness, and I told myself that maybe we'd grown apart. But Eleanor, she saw me, not as a man to be fixed, not as someone to plead with, but as a human being wrestling with his own flaws. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She simply listened, and when the moment was right, she spoke truth. Quiet, honest truth. Small gestures, a hand on my shoulder, a look of understanding that said more than words ever could. And in that silence, I realized something I should have known all along. Leaving wouldn't have freed me. It would have broken me. The love we had built, imperfect and stubborn, was worth every struggle, every fear, every night I doubted myself. Now, in these golden years, life has slowed, but the lessons remain sharp. We sit together on the porch, watching the sun set over the same town that shaped us. Our hands are wrinkled, our steps slower, but our hearts are still tied to one another in ways I never could have imagined. Love, I've learned, is messy. It's patience when you feel impatient, forgiveness when pride whispers to hold grudges, and resilience when everything in you wants to quit. And yet, it is also joy. Joy in small moments, in shared glances, in the knowledge that someone has your back no matter how many mistakes you make. We are not perfect. We are stubborn, flawed, human, but we survived. And in surviving, we discovered the quiet, enduring magic of love. After 52 years, I still sometimes wonder, would I have had the courage to stay if I faced the same moments today? I don't know. But one thing I know for certain, walking away never brought me what staying did. Staying brought me everything, the laughter, the lessons, the mistakes, and the grace of growing old together. And maybe that's the message I want to leave you with. Love is never easy, but it is always worth it. The moments you almost give up are the moments that define you. The moments you stay, those are the moments that matter. Fade out on the two of us, hands intertwined, sun casting long shadows across the porch, a lifetime of love written quietly in every line of our faces.